She was called the unsinkable ship, a masterpiece of engineering. So why is she lying 2.5 miles down at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean? The answer isn't just one iceberg. It's a chain of fatal mistakes, a cascade of human error that led to one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history. In the spring of 1912, the RMS Titanic was the largest, most luxurious moving object ever built. A floating palace of steel, she was more than just a ship. She was a symbol of the era's boundless optimism, a testament to industrial might and technological arrogance. On her maiden voyage from Southampton to New York, she carried some of the wealthiest people in the world, alongside hundreds of immigrants dreaming of a new life in America. For all aboard, the journey was meant to be the pinnacle of modern travel. The White Star Line, the ship's owner and its crew believed she was virtually unsinkable, equipped with state-of-the-art safety features, including 16 watertight compartments designed to keep her afloat even if several were breached. This belief, this hubris, would soon be shattered against the cold, hard reality of the North Atlantic. On the fateful day of April 14th, the Titanic steamed confidently across a calm sea, but the calm was deceptive. Throughout the day, the ship's wireless radio room received at least 6 separate warnings from other vessels about a massive ice field lying directly in its path. These weren't vague reports, they were specific and urgent. One message from the SS Baltic reported large quantities of field ice. Another from the German ship, SS America, detailed large icebergs. So why didn't the ship slow down or alter course? The answer lies in the Marconi room. The 2 radio operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, were employees of the Marconi Company, not the White Star Line. Their primary job was not to handle navigational warnings, but to transmit personal telegrams for the wealthy first-class passengers. On that day they were swamped. The wireless system had been down for several hours, and now they were working through a huge backlog of messages, stock trades, travel plans, personal greetings. The business of the rich took precedence over the safety of all. The final, most critical warning came around 10:30 p.m. from a nearby ship, the SS Californian. Its radio operator, Cyril Evans, tried to warn the Titanic that his vessel was stopped and surrounded by ice. He was so close that his signal was deafeningly loud in the Titanic's radio room. Phillips, exhausted and stressed, famously retorted, "Shut up, shut up. I am busy, I am working Cape Race," referring to the powerful relay station in Newfoundland he was communicating with. Frustrated, Evans simply turned off his radio and went to bed. This crucial message, reporting a large iceberg right where the Titanic would later strike, was never delivered to the bridge. Meanwhile, high up in the crow's nest, the ship's lookouts, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, were staring into a dark, moonless, and eerily calm night. The lack of waves, which would normally break against an iceberg and make it visible, made their job incredibly difficult. But their biggest handicap was something far more mundane. They didn't have binoculars. The ship's binoculars were locked in a cabinet, and the key had been inadvertently taken ashore by an officer who was transferred off the ship just before it set sail. They were forced to rely on their naked eyes, scanning the black horizon as the ship hurtled forward at a reckless 22 knots, nearly her top speed. Just before midnight at 11:40 p.m., Fleet's eyes caught a shadow in the darkness, a shape darker than the star-dusted sky. It grew rapidly. He frantically rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge, shouting the chilling words, "Iceberg, right ahead." On the bridge, First Officer William Murdoch immediately ordered the engines reversed and the ship hard to starboard, a command to turn the ship to port, or left. The great ship began to respond, but it was a colossal vessel, weighing over 46,000 tons. It was too big, moving too fast, and the warning came too late. The turn was agonizingly slow. In hindsight, a head-on collision might have been survivable. The bow was the strongest part of the ship, and while it would have been catastrophically damaged, the flooding might have been contained to the first few compartments. Instead, the ship tried to avoid the iceberg. As it slowly turned, its starboard side scraped along the submerged, jagged spur of the ice. Below the waterline, the iceberg acted like a giant can opener, not creating one long gash as is often depicted, but puncturing and buckling the steel plates, popping rivets and opening up a series of small holes and breaches along the first 6 of its vaunted watertight compartments. The damage stretched for nearly 300 feet. On board, the ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, was summoned to the bridge. After a quick inspection of the damage report, he grimly looked at the ship's blueprints and did the fatal arithmetic. The ship was designed to stay afloat if its first 4 compartments were flooded, but water was now pouring into 6. As the bow filled with water and dipped lower, the water would spill over the tops of the watertight bulkheads, which only went up to E-deck, and flood the next compartment, and the next, in a domino effect. Andrews delivered the death sentence to Captain Smith. The Titanic could float for, at most, about 2 hours. The unsinkable ship was doomed. What followed was a descent into chaos and confusion. The order was given to uncover the lifeboats, but there was a fatal shortage. The Titanic carried only 20 lifeboats, enough for just 1,178 people, barely half of the 2,224 souls on board. While this technically met the outdated British Board of Trade regulations of the time, it was a catastrophic miscalculation. To make matters worse, the initial loading of the lifeboats was a disaster. Amid the calm of the initial moments, many passengers didn't believe the ship was actually sinking and were reluctant to leave the perceived safety of the massive liner for a small boat in the freezing dark. The crew, poorly drilled and unsure of the boat's capacity, launched many of them only partially full. The first lifeboat to leave, Lifeboat 7, had a capacity for 65 people but was lowered with only 28 aboard. As the ship's bow sank deeper, the stern began to rise dramatically out of the water, lifting the massive propellers clear of the sea. The angle grew steeper and steeper. The lights flickered and then went out for good, plunging the ship into total darkness. Then, with a deafening roar that was heard for miles, the immense stress on the hull became too much. The magnificent ship broke apart between the third and fourth funnels. The stern, now almost vertical, hung poised against the sky for a moment before it, too, plunged into the icy depths of the Atlantic. It was 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, just 2 hours and 40 minutes after hitting the iceberg. Over 1,500 people, men, women, and children, were left struggling in the freezing 28-degree water. Their cries for help filled the night, but most lifeboats were too far away or too afraid to return, fearing they would be swamped by the desperate swimmers. Within minutes, the cold silenced them forever. The sinking of the Titanic was not an accident of fate. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a tragic, preventable catastrophe born from a chain of failures. Arrogance that deemed the ship unsinkable, negligence that allowed vital ice warnings to be ignored, and fatal mistakes that left lookouts without binoculars and lifeboats half empty. It's a story that still haunts us, a chilling reminder that even our greatest achievements can be brought down by human folly. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating and tragic as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling moments. We'll see you in the next video.